just got up to MGM, registered for the tournament for event number 1 of the Potomac Poker Open here at the MGM National Harbor. It's a $365 buy-in event, 300K guarantee. So looking to see some significant money up top. But first off, we just got to get through day 1. So I'll take it one step at a time. We still got about an hour and a half before the event actually starts. So I'm gonna grab some food, try to relax a little bit, clear my mind, and just get myself ready to take down this tournament. All right, get back to you guys soon. So to start off this tournament, guys, we managed to get a very, very favorable table draw. There was a lot of loose players, a lot of players that just didn't seem like they really had a clear understanding of how they should be playing tournaments. A lot of guys limping in with some very speculative hands. So ideal situation as a first table draw. Unfortunately, for the first hour, I was pretty card dead. However, we were able to pick up some steam later on down the road. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the hands. So in this first hand, we are at the 100-200 with a 25 ante blind level. Right away, we are under the gun and look down at ace-jack offsuit. I elect to raise it up to 600 here. It folds around to the small blind and he decides to come along. The flop is ace, 4, 3, all diamonds. And in these type of board textures, although we flop top pair, I'm going to be checking back this board almost 100%. I'm doing that for 2 reasons. For one, obviously this isn't an ideal situation for us, although we do flop top pair. We don't really want to be betting out and possibly get check raised here. And then the other reason is to help balance our range a little bit. So if we are checking back every time we don't have diamonds or every time we don't have top pair, then pretty much any opponent can just fire at will whenever we check. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, whenever we flop a flush, if that's the only time that we're leading out into this flop, then opponents can just very confidently fold. So I do elect to check. The turn is a very good card for us. It is an offsuit ace, and the small blind elects to check to me. And so now I think I want to go for some value. I elect to bet 700. Small blind very quickly raises all in. I don't love this situation at all. I thought about it for a while, but ultimately I really decided that I couldn't really fold here. Given who the small blind was, he was a player that would sometimes overvalue some of his hands. And I thought there was some percentage of the time where he's going to show up with a weaker ace. I don't really expect him to be checking back a flush on the flop and then also checking on the turn. There's no reason for him to think that I'm going to bet the turn. So with all those things being considered, I elect to make the call. The river runs out a 4th diamond, but it doesn't matter because our opponent has 6-8 of diamonds for a flopped flush. So a little frustrating in this type of scenario. I don't really know if there's anything I could have done differently. I mean, maybe I could fold the turn when he snap shoves. Just given the way that this player had been playing, I don't think I'm ever going to be getting away from this. So he's going to stack me every time in this scenario. So I'm just going to chalk it up to variance. So in this next hand, mind that not every hand that I've played has been recorded. Blind level is 150-300 with a $50 ante. And we are in the small blind with pocket 6s. It folds around to us in the small blind, and with pocket 6s against the big blind, I elect to raise it to 700. The big blind does make the call. And just to give you a little bit of background about who the big blind is, the big blind is a younger gentleman that had just sat down not too long ago. He seemed to be able to make some bluffs, make some plays here and there, but is playing pretty tight solid for the most part. The flop is 10-7-10 with 2 spades, and I elect to check here. Don't really think we need to be betting out with pocket 6s, so I elect to check. The villain now bets 1,500, which is a really big bet for this pot size. And although it is a very big bet, I think it's a little too weak to just check fold here with pocket sixes against big blind range. So I do decide to call, and I'm going to peel one off and see what happens on the turn. There are going to be a lot of turn cards that I'm just folding to. So I don't really know if it is the best idea to be just calling here on the flop. Maybe it's a little too loose, but I do elect to call. And the turn is one of the best cards there could be, or probably is the absolute best card that it could be. And it is a 6. So now we have a boat with 6s full of 10s. And I want to allow the big blind to continue with all his bluffs, as well as continue with all his 10x hands that he's going to continue to bet with. So I check it over to him, and the villain now bets 5,000. So with the villain betting so big, I think he's going to have a lot of 10s in his range, or some combo draws like Jack 9 of spades, 9-8 of spades, things of that nature. So with all that being said, I don't think he can fold anything to a check raise all in. So that's what I elect to do. I shove. And the villain looks really upset. He keeps talking to himself. He eventually says out loud, I know I'm way behind. I'm just drawing, but for this price, I can't really let it go. And he decides to make the call, and we both turn over, obviously. And he has Jack 8 of clubs. So it was pretty ambitious of him to continue on this type of board. Although I guess if it was any other card other than the 6, he probably would have got me to fold. So I guess he just got really unlucky that I turned a 6. The river comes out a 4 of diamonds, and he does not get there with his straight draw. So we are going to scoop a nice pot here. In this next hand, we are at the 500, 1000 with a 100 ante blind level. We're sitting on roughly about 27K, and we're in middle position, and we have 2 limps ahead of us, and we look down at ace queen offsuit. And so I want to punish these limpers a little bit, so I elect to raise it up to 4.1K, and we get 1 caller. The flop is queen jack 3 rainbow. So it's a very good flop for us. The villain in the hand checks to us, and I'm going to continuation bet here. I like to bet 4.7K. Villain very quickly calls. The turn is an offsuit 5. The villain checks it over to us again, and I elect to bet 7.5K, and the villain doesn't think about it too long and makes the fold. In this next hand, we're still at the same blind level again. Like I said, I played a lot of hands during these next couple blind levels. We are in middle position with pocket 10s. It folds to us, and I elect to open to 2.3K. Middle position 2, who's on my direct left, obviously, elects to call, and we're headed to a flop. The flop is king, queen, jack with 2 clubs. So not a very good situation for us. We do not have a club in our hand, I don't believe. And so in this situation, I'm just going to check it over to the villain. And the villain elects to bet 6K. And I don't really want to be calling out of position with this hand. Maybe if we were in position, I could call once and peel once. But out of position, I think I'm just going to face a lot of double barrels. I think this is going to hit a good amount of the villain's calling range. Hands like king, queen, ace, queen, ace, king, pocket jacks. So I really don't want to continue here. So I just go ahead and make the fold. In this next hand, the blind level is now 600, 1200 with a 200 ante. And we are under the gun +1, sitting on roughly about 70K. And we look down at ace of diamonds, queen of hearts. Under the gun limps to us, and we elect to raise it up to 4K. Gets back to the small blind. Small blind elects to call, and the under the gun player folds. So we're headed to a flop heads up. The flop is 7-4 deuce with 2 diamonds. So not much for us on this board other than backdoor flush draw. So with that being said, I don't think that this flop is going to hit our range very, very much at all. So with that being said, the small blind checks it to me and I like to check it back. The turn is a great card. It's an offsuit queen. And now the small blind just open shoves. So when he open shoves, this is a pretty weird spot. However, this player had been doing a lot of weird things and he seemed to be tilting after losing to a suboptimal hand a few hands before. I can't remember exactly what the hands were. However, I know he did have pocket queens and the other guy had like 7-4 or something ridiculous. So I know he had been tilting pretty hard since then. And I don't really know what he would be open shoving when a queen peels off on a turn. So with all that being said, even though it seems, really weird that he's just open shoving on this turn card, I do elect to call. And the player, he turns over Jack 10 of hearts. So I don't know really what he was doing. And he is drawing dead and the river is a brick and we're going to take this pot down and knock out a player. So yeah, that was a really weird hand to me. And it's one of those things where, like, at these small buy-in levels, it's very similar to, small stakes cash games, in my opinion, where, somebody can just spaz out all of a sudden and there's really no explanation for it other than, taking a bad beat here or there. I mean, I just don't know what he thought he was accomplishing by shoving this turn. But, I'm not going to complain. We win another pot and knock out another player. A little bit closer to, that top prize. In this next hand, it folds to middle position, and the middle position player is sitting on a stack of roughly about 20K, open shoves. It folds to me in the small blind, and I look down at pocket jacks. So with that being said, I elect to make the call. I'm sitting on a pretty big stack of 95K. Again, these last couple levels have been really good to me. The villain turns over ace queen offsuit, so we are headed to a race basically, and just hoping to hold with these pocket jacks. The flop comes out queen high. However, one of the cards on the board is a jack, so we make middle set. And the turn and river are both bricks, and we are going to scoop another pot and knock another player out. So things are just going really, really good for us at this time. We basically have, more than double our stack in, the last one or two levels. So that's always a really good result. And things are really just seeming like they're just clicking for us at this point, and we're just rolling in this tournament. In this next hand, the blind level is 1K, 2K, and we are on the button with pocket eights. We're sitting on roughly a stack of 110K at this time. So again, we are still doing very, very well in this tournament, well above average stack. So, things are just going our way right now for the time being. It folds to middle position, and middle position sitting on roughly about 20K elects to shove it all in. It folds around back to me on the button with pocket eights. And although I don't love this spot, particularly here with pocket eights against a middle position open shove, I don't think we could ever fold this hand. And I do elect to call. The board runs out, unfortunately, king high. And the middle position player happened to have ace king offsuit. So we're going to double him up here. And yeah, that one hurts a little bit, but I don't think there's anything we could do about it. Pocket eights is just way too strong to be folding when we're on the button against a middle position open shove with such a small stack. So can't really do anything about this. This is just kind of how tournament play goes. You have to make calls that you don't absolutely love, and you just have to hope that you're going to hold up in these type of scenarios. So throughout this tournament, things are going pretty well at this point, and we are on a steady uptick. We take a couple of hits to our stack, and it brings us down a bit. But overall, things are just looking really good right now, and I'm very happy with my play up to this point. So just busted out of the tournament. Made it to about round 14, I believe it was, round 13 or 14, not really sure. Sucks, definitely sucks busting out of tournaments. I think overall I played pretty well, pretty happy with most of my plays. There were a couple of really, I'll say really dumb decisions, maybe one or two. Luckily I was able to rebound from both of them. However, in the end, we did not make the money, busted out somewhere around 130 something. All in all, I actually had fun. I normally don't play a lot of tournaments. They just don't interest me that much, but I can honestly say that I did have fun playing in this tournament. And I guess I'll go over the bust out hand with you guys real quick while we're here. We might as well. Player in MP1 opens, I believe the blinds are 1200, 2400, and he opens to 6,000. This player, that was pretty standard for him. It folds around to me on the button, and I decide to call with 3-4 of hearts. Everyone else folds, and we go to a flop heads up. The flop comes out beautiful for us. It is ace, 5, I can't remember what the third card was, a non-pink card, all hearts. So we flop the flush, so we're really happy, we're in really good shape. The player now leads out for 8,000 chips. I decide to go ahead and raise. I don't want to raise it too big and blow him off of all his ace queen with no heart hands. You know, ace jack, ace king with no heart. So he makes it 8,000. I bump it up to 18,000. The player then proceeds to jam after thinking about it for a while. And I'm never getting away from this hand here. I'm pretty much calling it off here, because he could have ace king with the king of hearts. He could have pocket aces. Sometimes you have players that just spaz out, as you saw earlier in that other hand with the jack 10. So I decide to call it off here, and he turns over jack 9 of hearts. So we are in a flush over flush situation. There's no way we can win, and that is the end of our tournament. So like I said, all in all, it was a good experience, good time. MGM did a great job with the tournament. I thought the structure was relatively good for such a low buy-in, 365, 30-minute levels. A lot of levels have repeating antes, so all in all, it was a pretty decent structure. I was definitely happy with the tournament, but it just wasn't our day. I think I'm gonna actually head up to go play in some cash games. It's only about 7 o'clock now. We started at 11, so played for about almost 8 hours, and then you bust, so that definitely sucks, but there's nothing you can do. That's just kind of the nature of tournaments.